I'm going to teach you 5 core essentials that will enable you to keep a neutral alignment through movement. They are head and neck placement, shoulder stabilisation, rib cage placement, pelvic floor and deep abdominal muscle activation, and lateral breathing. Now, support yourselves coming down into a lying position. So you want to come onto your side, support yourselves coming down onto the floor and roll over onto your back. I recommend you use a Pilates or a yoga mat, but if you don't have one, lay a few towels on the surface to make it more comfortable. You want to have your feet facing forwards, with the heels of your feet in line with the sitting bones of your bottom, so they're about hip width apart. Make sure that your knee joints are in line with your hip bones, so that your knees aren't falling in or outwards. Now I want you to think about mobilising through your pelvis. Start by rolling the hips away from your ribs so you create a space under your lower back, then bring the hips in towards the ribs so you lose that space. It's a bit like going from Donald Duck into Pink Panther. Just do that a few times just to observe the movement through your pelvis, and then I want you to come to where you feel is halfway between those 2 points. Then bring the heels of your hands onto your hip bones and your middle fingers onto your pubic bone. You want those 3 bones to be in the same plane. That's called your neutral pelvis position. If I was to come out of neutral, now I've got an excessive arch in my lower back, my pubic bone is not in the same plane. Once you've come to where you feel is your neutral position, I want you to relax the muscles around the bottom and the backs of the thighs, and also check that you're relaxed around the top of the hips. Then just think about allowing all the muscles through the lower back to melt into the floor underneath you. That's usually enough to reduce any excess curve through the lower back. A natural curve through the spine is absolutely fine. Working up through the body, you want to have a feeling of width or openness across the chest. If you tend to be rounded shouldered, just think of opening across the chest. Just have a sense of sinking your shoulders down your back underneath you without forcing or jamming anything. This just allows you to lengthen across the top of the shoulders. Now we want to put our head and neck into its neutral position. Just observe now how your neck is lying on a flat surface. If your chin's up towards the ceiling, you can place a thin block underneath your head to bring you into a neutral position. This helps you to lengthen through the back of your head. If you're very extended through the back of your neck and your chin's coming up to the ceiling when you're lying flat, then you can bring a deeper block under your head. You can improvise by using some books. I want you now to look up to the ceiling and notice how the spine of your neck shortens, so it comes into a reverse C shape. On your next inhalation, I want you to lengthen through the back of your head so the chin comes down slightly. The eye line travels across the ceiling and about 1/3 of the way down the wall in front of you. Now notice how the spine of your neck is long. When I say lengthen through the back of your head during my workouts, this is the position I want you to come into. You're lengthening through the back of the head from at the top, from here. When you lengthen through the back of the head, you're lengthening out through the crown of your head. You want to imagine you've got a soft right peach in between the chin and the chest, so that you're not bringing the chin too far forwards. Now we want to think about shoulder stabilisation. Our shoulders tend to be rounded or lifted, or a combination of the both. Both of those positions tighten the muscles around the top of the shoulders, lengthen and weaken the muscles that live underneath our shoulder blades. These muscles under here are designed to keep our shoulders stabilised and in neutral. I want you to think about having that width across the chest again, and as you inhale, keep that sense of width and gently bring your shoulders out and up towards the ear so you're opening. Then as you exhale, just gently slide your shoulder blades down your back so you're lengthening across the top of the shoulders, and you can feel a slight engagement at the base of your shoulder blades. And again, inhale, gently bring the shoulders out and up, and as you exhale, keep the width across the chest as you slide your shoulders down. And then you want to keep that feeling through movement. The third core essential is rib cage placement. When you bring the hips up or bring the arms over your head, you don't want to allow the rib cage to lift. If you do that, you'll lose your neutral position through your upper spine, and you'll also lose the connection with your core muscles that we're going to engage in a minute. So you want to have a feeling of keeping the ribcage drawing down. It's as though you're pressing your ribcage down into the mat underneath you. Now we want to think about activating our deep abdominal muscle. We have a muscle that lies 4 layers deep in our tummy. The muscle fibres run widthway around your core and they act as your main stabiliser for your lower back and pelvis. When you activate this muscle, it gently draws in, acting as a cushion around the spine, keeping your lower back lengthened and in neutral and stabilising the pelvis. Your deep abdominal muscle attaches to your pelvic floor, which is a sling-shaped muscle that lives underneath you and it holds everything in. So in Pilates, we want to engage this muscle first and then connect our deep abdominal muscle. That will give you your maximum support. First of all, I want you to bring your fingers onto your hip bones, press down and in slightly. Now cough quite hard. Under your fingers, you should notice a lumpy feeling. That's your pelvic floor and deep abdominal muscle, maybe some obliques, and that's you working at 100%. You're pushing. In Pilates, we only want to connect these muscles about 30%, so it should feel more like a gentle pulse under your fingers, and this is where you can feel it. Let's start with the pelvic floor. You want to feel as though you're internally lifting this muscle. It's the muscle you would squeeze if you were going to stop your urine flow halfway through. So now I want you to bring one hand onto your chest and one hand onto your tummy. Bring the hands up there onto the chest, one hand onto the tummy. And I just want you to breathe how you normally breathe. Just be aware of where your breath's coming to. It is quite common to bring the breath into the chest. And when that happens, this creates shoulder rising. This means you can't keep shoulder stability and it means you tighten across the top of the shoulders. So really focus on bringing the breath down into the tummy. Imagine your tummy's a balloon. As you inhale, gently fill the balloon up with air, and as you exhale, just relax. So you're inhaling through the nose, tummy's coming away from the spine, and I just want you to exhale through softly pursed lips as you relax. And again, inhaling down. It's a soft, slow, gradual breath. Again, if you overbreathe, you're likely to cause the shoulders to rise. Now on your next exhalation through softly pursed lips, I want you to squeeze the muscle you would squeeze if you were going to stop your urine flow halfway through. So you're inhaling down into the tummy as you relax. Then as you exhale through softly pursed lips, squeeze the muscle you would squeeze if you were going to stop your urine flow halfway through. As you do this, make sure you don't move your hips at all. It's an internal muscle that you're internally lifting. Some people liken it to fastening up an internal zip. Or you could imagine that you're scrunching up a piece of tissue paper. Or you could imagine that you're going up in an elevator. But it's internal, the hips don't move. You might notice that as you do this, that your tummy is naturally drawing back. This is because your pelvic floor attaches to your deep abdominal muscle. You only want to connect with this muscle about 30% of its maximum. If you're quite weak through the core muscles, you might need to do it a little bit harder. So keep your fingers in and off your hip bones and just see if you can feel a pulse under your fingers. If you feel something and it's too lumpy, just soften what you're doing. If you feel that you can't feel a pulse, maybe just try engaging a little bit more. Be careful not to suck, harden or tighten back. You don't want to use any other muscles to create this movement. You're only relying on the pelvic floor lower down. Let's now add on our deep abdominal muscle activation. You want to have that internal lift of the pelvic floor, then you want to draw back and wide from in between the hip bones. Remember, these muscle fibres run widthways around us. So you're going to inhale down to prepare. As you exhale through softly pursed lips, you're gently engaging the pelvic floor and then softening your tummy muscles back and wide, keeping the upper tummy relaxed. That's very important. You don't want to always be working the upper tummy. When we start doing exercises in a minute, then we'll bring the upper tummy in as well. We're just trying to isolate and fire up our deep abdominal muscle first so we can balance the strength through our entire core. So you're going to inhale down, and as you exhale through softly pursed lips, gently engage and draw back. Great. Now we want to be able to keep our core muscles engaged through movement. If we keep breathing down into the tummy, we're going to lose our connection. If we breathe into the chest, we're going to lose our shoulder stability. So, in Pilates, through movement, we want to breathe in and out of the sides and the backs of the rib cage. So now I just want you to relax everything else. and see if you can bring the breath into your ribs. Bring your hands around your rib cage, keeping your shoulders relaxed. Exhale and empty your breath to start with. Then as you inhale, imagine that you're bringing your hands out to the sides of the room. And again, you're exhaling through softly pursed lips. So you're gently inhaling through the nose, expanding the sides and the backs of the rib cage, and then you're exhaling through softly pursed lips. And again, gently inhale wide into the sides and back to the rib cage, and exhale through softly pursed lips. Just check that your shoulders not rising. You're not inhaling up here. You're breathing wide here. You might need to practice this in the week, and that's fine. Now we want to put those two things together. So just relax your arms down by your sides. You're going to inhale down into your tummies. As you exhale through softly pursed lips, internally engage your pelvic floor, draw your tummy muscles back and wide. Now keep those muscles engaged and drawn back, and now breathe in and out of the sides and the back to the rib cage. And this is what we do through every exercise we do in Pilates. It's engaging your core muscles underneath so that you're supporting your lower back and keeping your pelvis in neutral. Okay, let's do that one more time. And I want you to bring two fingers in and off your hip bones. And I want you to bring the opposite hand onto the ribs. So now I want you to see if you can keep that feeling of a pulse under your fingers while you breathe in and out of your rib cage. So inhale down to prepare. As you exhale through softly pursed lips, engage the pelvic floor, draw back and wide, keep that pulse under your fingers, and now breathe in and out of the sides and the backs of the rib cage. If you lose a little bit of connection on your inhalation, you can just re-engage by deepening your connection and drawing back and wide a little bit more. We'll just do that a couple more times. Exhaling through softly pursed lips. The reason we exhale through softly pursed lips is because your diaphragm attaches to your deep abdominal muscle and it helps you to connect. Excellent. Okay, now I just want you to relax and watch. I'm going to show you how we apply these core essentials to keep neutral through movement. This should help to make everything nice and clear. So I want you to bring your arms over your head, Charlotte. Don't do anything, just as you would normally bring your arms over your head and bring one leg away from your body. As you can see, Charlotte has now come out of her neutral position. Her rib cage is lifted. I can bring my hand all the way through to the other side. One hip has dropped down. Charlotte is now not in neutral. She's also lost the connection through her shoulder stabilizers. So now, Charlotte, if you come back into neutral. Okay, we'll just do the leg slide to start with. You're going to do this in a minute. I want you to inhale down into your tummy. As you exhale, engage your pelvic floors, draw your tummy muscles back and wide, and exhale, slowly slide your right leg away, making a conscious effort to keep neutral through the pelvis. Inhaling into your ribs, and as you exhale, drawing the tummy muscles back towards you as the leg comes back in. So Charlotte's now moved, maintaining neutral. Let's do the arms over the head now. So she's going to inhale and bring her arms up to the ceiling, connect through the centre of the body, and as you exhale, have a sense of keeping the rib cage pressed down into the floor underneath you and the shoulder stabilised. Now Charlotte's moved, keeping neutral. I can't bring my hand underneath her back. Inhale into the ribs as the arms come up to the ceiling, and exhale and bring the arms down by your sides. One more exercise. I just want Charlotte to demonstrate this. Relax and don't do anything, and bring one knee out to the side. You'll notice now that Charlotte's hips lifted. She's unstable through her pelvis. Now I want you to inhale down into your tummy. As you exhale through softly pursed lips, engage the pelvic floor, draw the tummy muscles back and wide, and then gently bring your knee out, only as far as you can without the pelvis moving. You always move keeping neutral. Stop before you lose neutral. Then you're strengthening the right muscles that will allow you to increase your range later on. Inhale into the ribs, keep the tummy muscles drawing back. Exhale and bring the knee back to centre. Let's do this together now. So now, lying on your back, check that you're neutral through your body. I want you to relax and don't do anything. Bring your arms over your heads behind you and slide one leg away. And just observe what happens through your bodies. Most of you now will have a rib cage that's lifted, and you'd have lost neutral through your upper spine. You'd have certainly lost the connection through the shoulder blades, and some of you may have an arch through your lower back, and one hip will have dropped down. Now we're going to move, applying our core essentials, maintaining neutral. So just bring the heels of your hands onto your hip bones and your middle fingers onto your pubic bones. Check that you're in neutral through the pelvis. Check you're relaxing your muscles around the lower back. Check the back of the neck's long and the shoulders are gently relaxing down. You're going to inhale down to prepare. Engage the pelvic floor, draw your tummy muscles back and wide, and as you exhale, slowly slide your right leg away. Now see if you can keep the muscles drawing back as you inhale, widen to your ribs, and now exhaling, deepening your connection to slide the leg back in. And now on the other side, inhaling down to prepare. As you exhale, engage the pelvic floor, draw your tummy muscles back and wide, exhale, slowly slide the leg away. Inhaling into the sides and the back to the rib cage, and as you exhale, you can deepen that connection as the leg comes back in. So you only ever move as far as you can, keeping neutral. You don't need to slide the leg all the way out, and I'd recommend you don't lock the knee out, that makes it harder. Okay, now we're going to bring the arms over the head. I want you to inhale and float your arms up to the ceiling. As you exhale through softly pursed lips, engage the pelvic floor, keep the rib cage pressing down into the floor underneath you, keep the shoulder blades slightly drawing down your back. You may now not be able to bring your arms all the way back, and that's fine. Only bring them back as far as you can, maintaining your neutral. Inhale to bring the arms up to the ceiling, and exhale to float them down by your sides. We're going to do that again. Inhale to bring your arms up to the ceiling. Engage your pelvic floor, draw your tummy muscles back and wide, and as you exhale, keep the rib cage pressing down into the mat underneath you. Keep your shoulders gently sliding down your back. Inhaling into the ribs as the arms come back up to the ceiling, and exhaling to float the arms down by your sides. Good. Now let's do the knee out to the side. Don't do anything and bring your knee out to the side and just observe what happens through your pelvis. Okay, you would have lifted on the opposite side. Your pelvis will be unstable. Now, come back into centre, check you're in a nice neutral position. Remember, you're only going to move as far as you can, keeping neutral. If you want to bring your fingers in and off your hip bone here, just see if you can feel your deep abdominal muscle engaging. You're going to inhale down to prepare. As you exhale, engage the pelvic floor, draw your tummy muscles back and wide, and then just bring your knee out as far as you can, keeping neutral. And if it's only an inch that you bring it, that's fine, as long as you're using your deep abdominal muscle to support you. Inhaling into your ribs, exhaling to draw back and wide and bring the knee back in. And on the other side. So you're going to inhale down to prepare, engage the pelvic floor, draw your tummy muscles back and wide, exhale, slowly bring the opposite knee out to the side, inhaling into the sides and back to the rib cage, exhaling to draw back and wide and bring the knee back into centre. It's really important that you understand these core essentials. So repeat this section of the DVD as many times as you need to. Then you can move on to the main section where we will apply these core essentials to some basic Pilates exercises.